I'm going to showcase every 5-star banner unit so you can know who you should spend your gems on. I did record this video in the previous update, so the placements are messed up, but in the end, in the summarization, I fixed it. Let's start the video off with one of the newest units, Benimaru. Benimaru is a banner unit that you can ascend by beating Sukina's NPC mission and Sunjenu's NPC mission, as well as obtaining a few Story 7 items. Getting any rare trait and even All-Star would be okay for Benimaru, and I would probably go for an employment build or a critical build, depending on what you're using for. Benimaru is a 4 placement red ground unit that has burn. He starts with fast SPA but gets slower and slower, though gaining larger and larger AoE. His damage is really good including his burn, but he is quite expensive to max out all 4 and is a ground unit, so he might not be used in infinite. Meaning employment might be the play, which is why All-Star might also be okay since he's mainly used in story, maybe. Benimaru's damage puts him in 5th place out of the 8 new units from Banner this update. This is really good and I would probably go for him. He's a good unit. But before we continue, at 36,000 subscribers I will make a giveaway, so subscribe and like the video. Continue the video, we got Inumaki. Inumaki is also a banner unit that you can ascend by beating a few NPC missions. He's super strong and has multi-hit, so Corrupted might be one of the best traits, since he's a 4-placement unit, but any rare trait works. He's quite weird to use, so I didn't dare use a range tree because his range is somewhat bad in some forms, so I used a critical build instead, but a range tree might be better, or an employment build if you want to use him in early game. Inumaki is a 4-placement purple ground unit that at first doesn't do anything special except multi-hit. He does gain an ability where he can change his form, where he can either gain freeze or bleed. The ability text does say he can gain burn, but it doesn't seem like he can. It might be bugged, but for now it looks like his 4th form also has bleed, which makes it his best DPS form. And there's no real reason to use any other form unless you want to use freeze, but probably not. Inumaki is a really good unit that has super good DPS, but I don't know if he's bugged or not. Either way, Inumaki is like the 2nd best DPS out of the newest units, so I would definitely get Inumaki. Now we got Kurama. Kurama is a unit you will have to evolve from its 4-star version, making it really annoying to max out the skill tree. You also need a lot of Story 7 challenge materials, so this unit will take quite some time to max out. All-Star is the best with a critical tree, but any rare tree with an employment build also works. Kurama is a 3-placement green ground unit that could turn into hybrid later on. Kurama is very cheap and has good damage, and on upgrade 2, Kurama unlocks an ability where they can access 3 different forms. First form has bad range, while second form has the best DPS and is hybrid, while the third form has good range and full AoE. Kurama is super good. Kurama's damage ends off at 6th place in the new update, which is really good considering it's hybrid and could also be full AoE. Reagan is up next, and he's also really annoying to evolve and ascend since you need to evolve his 4-star plenty of times to get a maxed skill tree. He's not the best, but Corrupted and Employment might be the best for him since he could be used as a shield breaker. Otherwise, you could use any skill tree with any rare trait because, like I said, he's not the best, you probably won't use him that much. Reagan is a 4-placement orange ground unit that has good multi-hits. His damage is on the higher end, but he got no utility and there's nothing special to him. He's just like a Naruto or Zarban, but maybe slightly better. His damage is fine, being really close to Uliora DPS, but I wouldn't get him since there are better support units, there are better utility units, and there are better damage units than him, and he's really annoying to obtain. Stark is the next unit, and he is really strong. He's a regular banner unit that you can ascend by beating a few NPC missions. Corrupted is really good on him, but any rare trait that is an all-star works. I would definitely use the range tree on him. Stark is a 4-placement blue ground unit that has nothing special to him, but his damage is insanely good. His area of effect isn't the best, but his range and damage is, oh my god, it's so good. In Strategist, he got over 4,000 DPS per unit. And he's 4 placements. For reference, Uliora, who's also 4 placement, has less than 3000 DPS per unit. And Uliora is one of the best DPS units, or was. So Stark is really, really strong. Out of the newest units, he's the strongest, and I would definitely get him. Toji's up next, and he was so good, he had to be emergency nerfed after an hour. Toji is a banner unit that cannot be ascended. All-Star is his best trait, and it is so much more efficient to have it on specifically Toji. Otherwise, any rare traits works, just All-Star is so good. I would use a critical tree on him as well, because his damage is just insanely good. Toji is a 3 placement red bleed unit that has super good damage. He has fast attack speed as well. You could use him early game because he's sheep as well. On his last upgrade, he loses his bleed, but gains an ability to sacrifice units. If he does sacrifice 10 5-star upgrade 3 or more units, then he gains a 66% damage buff. 6.6% per unit sacrificed. This is why it's so nice to have All-Star on Toji, since he's incredibly strong and he needs to sacrifice the units and it just saves a lot of money. In this state of sacrificing 10 units, he's so strong, and even without, or even after the nerf, he's just still really strong. But without All-Star is really annoying to use since you need to have 30 sacrifices and that's a lot of money. So it's just annoying to use without All-Star. But even if you don't have All-Star on Toji, I would still get him because he's just insanely strong, both early game and later on. Next we have Yami, and to ascend Yami you have to beat a few NPC missions and get story 7 items. Yami's best trait is All-Star, but otherwise any rare trait works. A critical tree or range tree is both going to be fine since critical increases his damage a lot and his damage is really good, and range is good since his AoE is a thin line AoE while he does have pretty good range. Yami is a 3 placement purple ground unit with black flames. Black Flames deal 100% of the damage as damage over time in 8 ticks, which is insanely broken. Yami is a good placement unit despite being single target since his SPA is really fast and he does get a good AoE really quickly. His damage is insanely good and that's why All-Star would be insanely overpowered on Yami. One downside with him is that half of his damage comes from Black Flames, so it's a bit inconsistent. I would 100% get Yami since it's super strong as a purple unit together with Inumaki, but if you don't have All-Star, maybe reconsider, but yeah, probably still get him. Yusuke and Kuwabara is the last unit, sort of, it's a fusion in the last updates, that you can get from Banner. They are a 4-star fusion that you can get from Yusuke 4-star, which you need to evolve from a 3-star, and Kuwabara 4-star, which is just from Banner. Any rare trait works on them, but I really wouldn't try to spin on them, because if you do get All-Star, it's a bit unfortunate. Keep in mind that Yusuke is the one that you will transfer the trait on, so spin on him if you do spin on him. They're a 4 placement red ground unit that has no special effects. The range and AoE are mediocre, but their damage for 4 stars are super good. They even surpass Ace with his burn, but they do require 2 slots. And they don't have the best range and AoE, and don't have skill trees, so they're not really good, but for 4 stars they are. Also, some fusions might be good because before you get 5 stars, you could use them, but they are quite hard to obtain since you need to evolve Yusuke. So despite being good for new players, it's hard to get them, so maybe not. If you are able to get them easily in the beginning, go for it. They are the best fusion, but I don't think you're gonna get much use of them. And now we got Trunks from the previous updates. And it's really difficult to send Trunks because you have to beat Trial 3 Act 2 and his NPC mission. So this is not a unit you'll get in the beginning. Skill tree wise, I'd get 50% employment and 50% additional to making a good early game unit. Any rare trait would be fine and All-Star is not the best for him. Trunks is a 4 placement orange hill unit that crits. Every 4 hits he lands, he deals 4 times more damage. He isn't the best on early, but he is cheap and has good damage. He also has good range and decent area of effects, and is the only viable orange hill unit from banner until you get trial units like Frieza. He's good and I would recommend getting him, but this is more late game. He does come in at the 8th best DPS in this video if we include all damage over time and such, just like Trunks' own crit stats, and also the max buff being only 40% for Trunks, unfortunately. Next we have another unit from the previous update, Zorbin, and it's unfortunately even more difficult to ascend, so you need helmets and masks from Trial 3. If you do get Zarban, I would recommend the range tree, as his AoE isn't the best while his range is good, and any rare trait would be fine. Zarban is a 4 placement green unit that is cheap to deploy, so you could use him as an early game unit, but his attack speed isn't the best, and upgrading him makes his attack speed even worse, so early game isn't his strong suits. His damage is fine, coming in 5th place, but his AoE and the fact that he only hits ground units makes him unable to reach some meta tiers. I wouldn't get Zarban as he's too difficult to obtain, and by this time, you already have better green units that also hit area enemies. Next we have Cooler, an absolute beast. Obtain Cooler you can summon on the banner, or evolve his 4-star which you can obtain from Trial 3. It's also really difficult to ascend just like other units. All-star is the best on him, and I sort of spent 25,000 Robux trying to get All-Star on my shiny one and didn't get it, so that's sad. But any other rare trait would also be good. I use a crit build on the damage tree because his damage is insane and you want to make it even better. Cooler is a 3 placement purple unit that's cheap to deploy and has fast attack speed, making him a really good early game unit, despite having a mediocre AoE attack. On Archery 3 he does lose this fast AoE, but his DPS for his cost is actually really good, so still okay. And maxed out he's super strong with decent range and decent AoE, but the thing that is dragging him down is that he's only a ground unit, and his AoE isn't like super good. But his damage is insane, making him the 2nd strongest unit in this video, and you should definitely get him. But it's hard, therefore you will probably get other good units before him. Next we have Ace. Ace is also quite difficult to ascend since you need to beat Trial 2. And personally, I would recommend an employment build on him because he's mainly used in story and such, but his range makes Overload and Range Tree fine too because he's a large range. Ace is a 4 placement red hill and burn unit that is cheap to place. His area of effect starts off really good, and his starting DPS, including the burn, is quite good as well. With pretty cheap upgrades and multi-hit as well, he's a super good early game unit, so I do kind of recommend Corrupted trait on him, so you can break shields easier, but any rare trait is fine, but not all-star. While being good, his DPS is not comparable to the infinite meta, so DPS-wise, with full buffs and his burn, he stands at 9th place and was 6th place before the latest updates. I would still recommend getting and ascending him as soon as you can though. Next, we have Blackbeard. It's easy to ascend him, but you really don't have to ascend him. You don't have to max his skill tree either. But if you do, go for range tree because he can hit more enemies that way. And then get companion. But you could also get corrupted. Blackbeard is a 4 placement purple ground unit that is cheap to place, but despite being cheap to place, he's not an early game unit because his damage is the worst out of every 5-star unit in the game. The reason for his damage being so low is because of his special ability to slow down enemies. This is why you don't have to ascend or max skill tree him, because he gets to slow no matter what. Definitely get him and ascend him after you've gotten your DPS units. Then we have Broly. To obtain Broly, you have to evolve his 4-star, which is available in banner. Then you have to do 2 different NPC missions to ascend them, and I would go for a crit build with All-Star, but otherwise any rare trait works. Broly is a 3 placement green hill unit, and you can deploy him second round if you place down Ramen first round. He's expensive to upgrade, so he's not the best early game unit, and maxed out, his damage is really bad, but he has a special effect, Rage. So once maxed, every round increases his damage with a cap. Fully maxed, he is super good. This is why you use him in longer game modes, currently only infinites. In Strategist, he has a total DPS over 12,000. This puts him in 4th place, and I would recommend getting him. Next up, we have Deidara, and you have to beat the Naruto NPC mission, but otherwise his evolution is fairly easy. I'm using a crit build and corrupted, but All-Star would be much better. Deidara is a 3 placement cheap hybrid red unit, and you could place him second round if you placed Ramen first round. He's a full AoE, but he also goes in a circle or a figure trait around his placement, just like the monkey ace and balloons. He's also multi-hit, and despite being trashed on, he's actually pretty good for his cost. Sort of full AoE with multi-hit and really good damage for 1000, so that makes him a really good placement shield breaker. He's also got sheep upgrades, so that basically makes him meta in PvP. He also increases his AoE and damage quite a lot, but in the end, he isn't multi-hit and he doesn't get really good DPS in total. But for his cost, he's one of the best DPS to cost-wise. You cannot get as much damage with the same amount of money as you can with Datara, unless you're using Yuno. Either way, I wouldn't recommend getting him unless you want to play PvP, because he isn't used for anything. Now we have Eren. He can't be ascendant, therefore is easy to use as soon as you get him. I would recommend an employment build on him, because Eren is mainly used as a shield breaker, so Corrupted is also the best trait for him, and not All-Star like me. Eren is a 4 placement green ground unit that's expensive and really special, because once placed, he's a summoner that has trash DPS. While upgrading, the Titans just get more and more HP, but this mode just sucks. You can also change his form, which will be a separate upgrade path, and this path starts with full AoE and multi-hit, so he's mainly used as a shield breaker. And you can even get it to kill powerful 3 before it loses full AoE. When he does lose it, he's kinda trash. So he's only really used as a shield breaker because he's too expensive to make him viable. You could also use him as a boss killer in NPC missions because the Titans kill anything, even the fusion NPC mission. But in general, his DPS summon form is worse than even Blackbeard. But his other form is actually on par with Ace somehow, though his range isn't as good and he can't hit air, so not really. You could, however, sort of combine his damage by the switching forms every 50 seconds. But if you don't have All-Star, this requires you to switch forms for 4 units every 50 seconds and it's super annoying. So even if his DPS this way is actually the 3rd best, it's not worth it. In reality, Eren is not the 3rd best unit. But I would recommend getting him for the shield break. Up next, we got Fran, and to ascend her, you just have to beat her NPC mission, which is quite an annoying one. I would recommend, well, she's kind of trash anyway, but go for a crit build if you got All-Star and an employment build if you got any rare trait, I guess. She could be used for anything that's orange element effective since she's decent early and an orange hill, but now trunks exist, so no. Fran is expensive to place, but does have decent damage. The problem is that her attack speed is slow, so she gets overwhelmed easily, and she really only gets good after her penultimate upgrade, where her AoE is insanely good. Her attack speed is still trash. With a 3 placement limit as well, she's really low down on the DPS list, so I wouldn't get her. Next we have Gojo, and to ascend him, you just have to beat his NPC mission near challenges. If you do get him and want to use him, go for sharpshooter and range 3 to get as much range as possible, but in general, I don't recommend getting him. Gojo is a 4 placement blue ground unit that is full AoE on placement. He's single hit and expensive, so he's not a shield breaker though. His damage is really bad and loses full AoE quickly, and max out he gets a times up that is expensive to get and pretty bad. His damage is really bad and his times up is outclassed by S-Death. There's no reason to get Gojo. Goku's up next, and you need to evolve his 4-star to get him. Then you also have to ascend Goku. I would recommend an employment build because he isn't used for anything except for early game, and that's why any rare trait also works on him, maybe even All-Star, but that makes him more expensive. Goku is a 4 placement red hill unit that's a single target on placement. He's really cheap and you can place him down second round, which is common to do because he has a fast attack speed. He got cheap upgrades and also gets better attack speed with an AoE attack on upgrade 3, and this is where he shines in early game. Max upgrade, he has slower hit speed and a line AoE with mid DPS, so he's not really used later on. I would maybe get Goku, but there are better options now. Probably just use Ace. I'm also gonna include the fusions very quickly, so now we have Goku and Vegeta fusion. You have to place the units in range of each other first. Goku Vegeta is an orange hill unit and is not good and is fairly annoying to obtain as well, to Vegeta requiring an evolution. He got a bad attack speed and low damage, and since Goku's trait is the one that we'll use on the fusion, you could get a trait on him and maybe use the fusion as you might evolve him into the 5-star later on, but they are trash. Next we have Gon and Kilawa fusion, which you could actually go for because you want Kilawa later on for Kilawa 5-star, and the fusion isn't too terrible. Being said, this would be if you don't have 5-stars yet. And keep in mind that the trait will be from Gon while in the fusion, but Kilawa is a unit you want to evolve, so maybe not. Gon and Kilawa is a green ground unit that has shock, so it's somewhat a support. The damage per second isn't too bad for 4 stars, but keep in mind that they do require 2 slots. Gon has 4 placements while Kilawa has 3, so you can get an extra Gon down for more DPS if you're playing Infinite or something. And as I said earlier, get Kilawa either way. While doing that, if you get a Gon, you can use this fusion until you get a good 5-star units. Ichigo is also obtainable by evolving his 4-star. Then you need to beat Ulquiora's NPC mission. I would recommend an employment build on Ichigo and then have Corrupted. Ichigo is a 4 placement red ground unit with full AoE on placement. He is expensive to place, but he does have multi-hit, which makes him an awesome shield breaker just like Eren. Actually, he might be a better shield breaker on placement, but he's more expensive and after upgrade 2 he loses full AoE, so Eren is slightly better. Ichigo doesn't have good DPS, so he won't be used for anything else. I wouldn't get him since he doesn't have any other use cases and Eren is as good or better. Next we have Ishtar, and to ascend her you need EXP force and regular ascension items. I would recommend getting Corrupted on her and using the crit tree. Ishtar is a 4 placement orange ground unit that on placement is very cheap. Her placement AoE is really bad however, and she gets overwhelmed easily. Her AoE only changes on the 5th upgrade, where she gets a full map range and better AoE. And then you can target this AoE like the mortar in other games. And most people have it on auto, so you can just walk around on the enemies. Ishtar's DPS isn't actually really good, especially for her cost because she's really expensive. But her full map range makes her one of the best NPC boss killers because she can dodge stuns really easily and also meta and infinite. She's the 10th best on DPS list otherwise, and I would get her. Now we have Kilawa. And to obtain Kilawa, you have to evolve his 4-star from banner. I recommend all-star with a damage crit build, but if you can't get all-star, any rare trait with an employment build for story works too. And this is what I'm using. Kilawa is a 3 placement purple hill unit that is really cheap and has a really fast attack speed. He starts single target just like Goku, and similar to Goku again, on the 3rd upgrade he gains an AoE attack, though worse attack speed. On his 6th upgrade, he gains full AoE but a limit of 35 enemies. This is insanely good because he is hill and also has really good damage and a super fast attack speed. Kilawa is super good, but in general his damage per second is lacking since he is 3 placements and a full AoE unit. Kilawa also has shock though, which does interrupt time stop, and for this reason he isn't really used in leaderboard infinite runs. But he is a beast in story and other modes, and I would absolutely get him, but he is hard to obtain for beginners. Keep in mind that this unit is the 21st unit on the DPS list in this video, and that's really bad. Luffy Sanji is a 3 placement red hill unit that is, well, the worst character on this list. It has similar damage to Blackbeard, while Blackbeard is meant for the slow, and since Sanji is a 4 placement and Luffy is a 3 placement, you can actually place down another Sanji with burn for some extra DPS, but it doesn't really do much. I would not get them, and they don't evolve into anything better later on, so Luffy is, by the way, the one that takes over the traits. It doesn't really matter, he doesn't evolve into anything. Ooh, now we have Mihawk, and it's super easy to ascend him, and maxing his skill tree makes him so much better. I would recommend 50% Ricochet and 50% Overload because Mihawk has insane range. Any trait works on him if it's rare, but maybe not all-star. Mihawk is a 4 placement green hill unit and is really expensive to place. He starts with a wide line AoE and small range, but every upgrade increases his range by a lot. Later on, he gets a super thin stick AoE, but his range keeps on increasing, making his range crazy, and that's why range 3 is really good on him, because you can get a full AoE attack on occasion. Mihawk has good DPS, and he's actually, while max buffed in Strategist, the 7th best DPS in this video, but his AoE is cutting him down. There are better green hill options, so I wouldn't get Mihawk. Next we have Nagi and Leo? Fusion? I don't know, I haven't watched Blue Lock. Since they do not evolve into anything later on, it's not worth it to spend rolls on them and potentially get a wasted all-star. They are a 4 placement blue hill unit that has no special effects. But the fun thing about them is that their DPS actually isn't that bad. It's quite good. Their DPS is, well, fully buffed, which is 40% for blue units. In strategies, they're 15th place. Sort of in the middle. In fact, their DPS is higher than Zeke, another good blue unit, and I will cover him later on. Having good damage, but decent AoE in range and needing 2 slots makes them really bad actually. If they're on the same banner while you're starting or you get them while rolling for a 5-star, you could actually use them if you're below like level 10, but after you get some good 5 stars, they're kind of useless. Oh boy, Naruto coming up. Any rare trait works with any skill tree because you will not use this unit. I have an all-star Naruto and I barely use him even. Naruto is a 4 placement orange unit that is quite cheap to place down, but his AoE isn't that good and his damage isn't the best, so starting with him isn't optimal. Since he has nothing special to him, being ground and having mid DPS, he's really bad. He does however have better damage than people think, since he's the 13th best DPS while fully maxed as strategist, and he only gets a 40% buff since he's an orange unit. Otherwise, he would be really close to ace DPS, including his burn. But everything else about him is trash, so don't get him. Zarban is basically a Naruto but better in every way. It doesn't get better with the Naruto and Sasuke fusion, since there are 4 placement orange units that don't do anything special. It's sort of like Goku and Vegeta, but even worse DPS and isn't even heal. Naruto does evolve, but he also sucks, like we just mentioned, unlike Goku. For this reason, I would not use any rerolls or anyone here, and I would not use this fusion or anything related to it. Next we have Sukina, and to ascend Sukina, you need fingers, which you can get from beating his NPC mission near challenges. I would recommend getting All-Star on him, otherwise any rare trait works. Personally, I would use him as a marker build with 3 marker and 1 shield break, because he's mainly a support, kind of. With All-Star, crits or overload and ricochet works. Something like that. Sukina is a 3 placement red hill unit that's quite expensive. He has a really slow attack speed, so he gets overwhelmed. He does have decent damage because he has bleed in the beginning, but it doesn't matter with the SPA. On upgrade 6, he gets even worse AoE and loses his bleed to gain burn, making him more of a DPS unit rather than a support, though his DPS is still lacking. That's why I mainly use him as a marker build and keep his bleed. But there are better alternatives for this too, so Sukina is quite bad, and his DPS puts him in 14th after upgrade actually. Place including his burn at max 50%, so I wouldn't get him. Next we have Sunjenu, and to send him, you need to beat his NPC mission. I would recommend All-Star with crit build, and if you don't have this, Sunjenu will probably not ever be used. He was my 2nd ascended unit, and I don't think I've ever used him ever since I got Goku, which was my 3rd ascended unit. Now the Kilawa is here too, even worse for him. Sunjenu is a 3 placement purple and half red unit. He's single target on placement, but not really good for early. He does get an AoE attack later, but it doesn't really make him any better. He is however cheap now after the latest update, so you could somewhat use him in early game. Like, he's okay for story when purple is effective, but Kilawa. Upgrade 5 gets him an ability that you should just use immediately since it summons Igris. And Igris has bleed and is a red unit with 1 placement per Sunjenu. So if you have Sunjenu All-Star, you will get 1 Igris only, but Igris will also have All-Star. The total DPS of Sunjenu and Igris is quite good, coming in 11th place, but being different elements makes it less DPS if you don't have both King type buff and Lelouch buff. And their AoEs aren't the best. They're also really expensive in total. I wouldn't get Sunjenu since Kilawa and Cooler are just better purple units. Tanjiro and Nezuko is a 4 placement green unit with burn, and on max upgrade they actually have decent DPS for 4 stars, but again they do require 2 slots, so despite being 17th in the video here, even higher than Zeke, is not really worth it. I wouldn't get them. Finally we got Uliora, and to send him you need to beat his NPC mission. I would recommend Corrupted or Genesis on him because, well, Bloodlust is fine, but Uliora is actually really good in Infinite, and there you will not have 10 kills consistently. Since his damage is so good, I will also go for a crit build. Uliora is a 4 placement green hill unit that is the exact same as Broly on placement, but a bit more expensive. He's not too insane before he gets maxed, if I'm being honest, but when maxed, he gets an ability. Depending on his damage while using the ability, his damage will decrease, but the SPA will improve a lot, making his DPS better. If he has 0 damage, it could actually decrease his damage per second, but having 1 million or more damage, his DPS is gonna be increased by a lot. His range also increases, and his AoE is already really big. While max buffed with 50% from Erwin and having his 1 million damage when using the ability, all 4 Ulquioras together in strategist makes him the 6th best DPS wise in this video. But his range and AoE makes him better than Eren and slightly better than Broly, and so he is like meta. To ascend Whitebeard, you need to beat Blackbeard's NPC mission. Corrupted is most likely the best trait for Whitebeard since he has full AoE with low DPS. He's mainly a support. I would honestly go Marker with him as well, making every attack corrupt and mark the enemies as often as possible, so other units can kill enemies even faster. Whitebeard is a 4 placement blue unit that is really weak. He starts with line AoE and mid attack speed, making him not good for early despite being sheep. He gets a circle AoE later, but his attack speed is still really slow. And on Crit 6, however, he does gain a full AoE attack with no limits. He has a really slow attack speed and bad damage, but the full AoE is still good. He is the 3rd worst character DPS-wise while fully max buffed, only stronger than Blackbeard being a support, and Luffy Sanji fusion, which is a 4-star fusion. That sucks. I would not get Whitebeard unless you want to FK Trial 2 with a full AoE units. Next, we have Yuno. You're in for a treat here. It is easy to ascend her, but it doesn't give her anything special for ascending her except for a few more upgrades that increase her damage, so it's still worth it. I would recommend a marker build with either corrupted or sharpshooter. You could also go with range tree, but after some time it doesn't even matter what range she has past sharpshooter or something because she is single target still, so corrupted is my actual recommendation with marker. Yuno is a 4 placement red unit that is a single target and has blade. She is sheep and has sheep upgrades, being the cheapest 5-star unit to max in the game. Her attack speed is insanely fast, making her DPS the best in this video. However, she has super bad range, so she's considered as one of the worst units in the game. This is why I would use corrupted and marker, because since she hits so fast, every unit she hits will be basically guaranteed to be effective with the mark and corruption. Though this isn't a permanent effect, so you would have to replace her a lot, which isn't worth it. However, for the cost of 25,000 to max out one, she is actually also the most cost efficient unit when it comes to damage. I wouldn't get her even if her damage is the best. There are a lot of better red units and a lot of better support characters, and her range, even though she has good DPS, makes it not the best DPS in practice anyway. Up now we got Zeke, and to ascend Zeke you have to beat Eren's NPC mission. I would recommend All-Star. Phew, I actually got him. Then the crit tree. Do not get range tree, this makes it more annoying to use. Otherwise, Genesis works on him. Zeke is a 3 placement blue hybrid unit that is cheap to deploy. He's okay in the beginning, but a slower attack speed makes him a bit hard to use in the beginning. His special thing is that he's a ring AoE, meaning that he can't attack enemies in his range, but only outside his range and within the blue area. This is why increasing his range is a bit weird because, yes, it does increase his blue AoE, but it also increases a range where Zeke cannot attack. He does gain a really good AoE that hits a ton of enemies later on, making him really good. However, he might be a bit overrated because his damage per second is really bad actually. He has worse DPS than Nagi and Rio Fusion, like stated before, but he makes it up by having good range and really good AoE, I guess. So he's still really good, and he is definitely meta, and I would still definitely get Zeke because he's really good. Being a 3 placement blue unit does drag his DPS down because most 3 placements don't have as good total DPS and strategist, and blue units don't have a 50% buff, but everything else about Zeke is great. Being a good hybrid unit is super good. Finally, we have the 3 buffers: King Kai, Erwin, and Lelouch. They don't have ascensions, and you don't have to have traits or skill trees for them, but leveling them up is necessary to get the max buff. If you do get traits, Sharpshooter is really good to be able to fit more units in their range, and range Chi works to get even more range, but the skills don't do anything really. That's why you could also get dodge chance from the speed tree, which is what I have. This makes them so much harder to get stunned, and they can constantly buff your units. In game, Lelouch doesn't do damage at all, and his ability just buffs. The more upgrades, the more of a buff. Caps at 50% for purple units and 40% for everyone else. Kinkai doesn't do damage either, and up until the same upgrades that Lelouch have, he does the same thing. 50% for red units and 40% for everyone else. Kinkai does have another upgrade though that's quite expensive. A global cooldown buff that buffs every unit in his range for 75% instead. But it does run out, and after it does, they get a 60% damage reduction. So this is like a last resort on Infinite. Erwin does deal damage on placements, and then on the second upgrade, he loses his attack, gains the buff ability, which is the same cost as other buffers, and starts summoning knights as summons on the track. Upgrading him past this only makes his knights stronger and do not make the buff stronger. Maxed out Erwin has on strategist 6000 HP summons every 37 seconds, being very bad DPS wise, though it is still better than nothing, I guess. If you have the extra money, like, why not? I would get all 3 of these and level them up to level 80 slowly. You don't really have to feed them that much. After you got the meta units, then you can go for skill tree and traits on them, but those 3, the last units I maxed out my skill trees on. Okay, so I have a spreadsheet about everything with pictures of strategist stats and regular stats and AoE and range and everything. You could check it out. All stats are here. And I just took the total DPS and multiplied it by the max buff you could get. And this is basically the damage list. Previously, without the updates, like, Yuno was number 1. Ace and Ishtar were top 10. So that's why I call them good DPS. Now, I didn't want to change the whole video just because the position changed, so I'm just showing you now. The new units are super good. They are by far the strongest ones. Here is the updated list, so you've seen this list a bit throughout the video. This is the updated one with the new units. Yeah, the new units are overpowered. Like, really overpowered. They're so good. Now, I was supposedly going to say that you're gonna get Ishtar or Ace, you're gonna get Trunks and everything like that. They're still good to get. So Kilawa, Zeke, Blackbeard, all the buffs. Let's see. Daedra if you want for PvP, Sukina if you want bleed, Jin-woo if you want purple units, Ichigo if you want shieldbreaker, Ace, Trunks, good units, Zoro you might not need, but Uliora you want, Eren you want for shieldbreaker, Cooler, Zarban maybe a bit, and not Yuno, but also Broly, those units that you would want to get. Now it's not really the case anymore. You want to get all the new units. Even Reagan is pretty good as an orange unit. He's just a better Zarban and Naruto basically. And maybe not better than Zarban, but maybe. But you want to get all the new units and like maybe Uliora, Ace, Ishtar, Trunks because he's an orange hill unit, that's pretty good. Broly, Eren for shieldbreaker still. So the supports are basically the same. So Daedra for PvP, Sukina for bleed if you want it, probably not because now you also have Toji. Blackbeard buffs. But yeah, it's not the same anymore. It's hard now. But get the new units and get those that are essential for like type advantages. So get a few good for green, a few good for red, etc. So Broly and everything. I don't know. Other than that, it's hard to say now. The new units are just so overwhelmingly strong. The power creeping is insane here. Other than that, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I haven't posted in so long. Subscribe if you enjoyed it. I'm making a giveaway at 36,000 subscribers, and I'm going to try to get the content creator role so I can give subscribers who see me in public servers the YouTuber daily gifts. So yeah, I hope I see you in the next video.